Over the past several weeks, we've walked through some very tender ground together. We've talked about shame, pain, fragile trust, unresolved stories, boundaries, surrender, and caring for the parent who has been carrying so much. Today, we begin to notice something new. Not pressure, not resolution, but the possibility of renewal. Because after long seasons of grief, disappointment, and emotional vigilance, something often begins to shift quietly. God invites us to begin living again, not all at once, not dramatically, but a gentle, stirring invitation. Today, we're talking about what it looks like when God invites you to rise again. Hi, welcome to Still Faithful, a Bridge Between Us podcast series for parents walking hard, unresolved parenting journeys. I'm your host and in the trenches partner, Melinda Patrick. This is a space for honesty without shame, faith without pressure, and movement without forcing outcomes. Together, we're learning what it looks like to stay spiritually anchored, emotionally steady, and rooted in love, even when parenting hurts and the story isn't finished. There are seasons in life that feel like winter. In wintertime, we can look out and the landscape feels quiet, the ground feels cold and frozen, and movement feels slow. You may still be faithful, still praying and showing up, but internally, things feel dormant. Your energy is lower, your joy feels distant, your heart may feel guarded after carrying so much. Spiritual winter does not mean something's wrong. Winter is actually part of how God forms us. I want you to take a look outside at the trees. Seeds rest in winter. Roots deepen in winter. Life is still present, even when it cannot yet be seen. Renewal rarely arrives with urgency. God doesn't rush healing. Often renewal begins as a small stirring, a moment of laughter you didn't expect, a sense of peace during prayer, a new curiosity about what God may be doing in your own life. These stirrings can feel surprising. You may wonder, am I allowed to move forward? Is it okay to feel lighter when my child's story is still unresolved? Friend, the answer is yes. Renewal and getting back up does not erase love, it does not erase concern, and it does not erase the past. It simply means life is beginning to grow again. I'm not sure when you're listening to this episode, but for me today, while I'm recording it, we are in the first week of March. Winter is leaving and spring is arriving. I can walk outside in my yard and begin to see tiny sprouts busting through the ground, and it fills my heart with joy. One of the most important parts of renewal is this: you don't have to rush it. Rising again doesn't mean reinventing your life overnight. It doesn't mean pretending the past didn't happen. And it does not mean abandoning the parts of your story that still ache. Rising again might look like saying yes to something small, maybe reconnecting with a friend, returning to a creative or meaningful activity, something that actually gives you life, allowing hope to exist without demanding certainty. God often restores life slowly. And slow restoration is still real restoration. Sometimes the invitation to rise again comes quietly. A new sense of energy, a desire to step outside more, a longing to re-engage with something meaningful. These moments are worth noticing. You might ask yourself, where have I been emotionally dormant? What feels like it might be beginning to stir again? What small step toward life feels possible right now? These questions are not about forcing growth. They're about paying attention because God often works through invitation, not pressure. For some parents, saying yes to life again can feel risky. You may fear that hope will make disappointment worse. You might feel unsure whether joy is appropriate when your child's story still remains unresolved. But living again is not a betrayal of your child. Living again is actually showing your child love. It's a reflection of trust. Trust in God. Trust that God continues to work. Trust that your story is still unfolding and that your life still holds purpose beyond what you're carrying. Friend, your child's choices do not negate God's plans and purposes for your life. And when we say yes to living again, we are saying, yes, God, I want to walk out in obedience to who you called and created me to be. Saying yes to life again does not require forgetting the past. It simply means allowing God to grow something new alongside of it. This week, I want you to take a moment and sit with these questions, and I will put them in the show notes. Where have I been emotionally dormant? What feels like it might be beginning to stir in me? What would it look like to say yes to life again, slowly? There's no pressure here, just awareness. As I have walked around in my yard this week, I have been aware of the new growth coming forth out of the dirt. My prayer is that this week, as you sit with these questions, God would open your eyes to what is coming up in your own heart. For many parents, renewal can feel unfamiliar after long seasons of carrying pain. You may notice new stirrings, but feel unsure how to move forward with wisdom and steadiness. I want you to know I am always here for you. If you ever need someone to walk through this season, there's a way to contact me in the show notes. And as we close today, I want to remind you, renewal does not require forgetting what you've been through. It simply means allowing God to restore what has been worthy. If God is inviting you to rise again, even slowly, you're allowed to say yes. It doesn't have to be done perfectly. It doesn't have to be done quickly, but God will faithfully work through you in it. God has entrusted this journey and your child to you. And as you remain open to his work, both in your child and in you, he will be faithful to equip you for each next step. I'll talk to you next week, friend.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Bridge Between Us podcast with Melinda Patrick. To find out more, go to melindapatrick.org. Once you're there, you can check out the many resources that Melinda has available. Also, you can book Melinda for your next speaking engagement. Just click on the speaking tab at the top of the page for more information. All of this can be found at melindapatrick.org. Thank you for listening in today. Be sure to join us next time for another episode of The Bridge Between Us with Melinda Patrick.